Hey everyone, this is Chris Keys, for Premier Guitar, hanging out at the 2025 NAMM show at the Red Panda booth, but we have Troy Van Leeuwen. You guys know what bands he's in, and you got a cool amp to talk to us about.
I do. Can I yell into this thing, or is it, can you hear me okay?
I think so. Is this thing on?
So yeah, this thing is on, right? So this is a GMI Public Address System 33F6. So this is a design that myself, Sean Ronan, and Gabriel Curry have been working on for the last 5 years.
Gabriel's Echo Park.
Echo Park Guitars. So basically, I hate to do the comparisons, but it's sort of like if you put like a Peavey musician and a Marshall Jubilee with a Fender Opus to it. So it's got a solid state rectifier, but it's got tubes on the power section, and it's about 50 watts.
Yeah.
And it's got two channels. One's kind of a wide open, clean, like just beautifully round, and the other is kind of like a lead channel. And you can pump them together if you want, or you can do them separately.
Now, how do you run it with any of your live rigs?
I have been using it on the road. So we started testing this amp on the road. I got this really incredible opportunity to play with The Damned, which was one of my favorite bands growing up. And we used that tour for the testing ground for this amp.
Wow.
And then right after that, I got a call from Jane's Addiction to fill in for Dave DeVaro, and I used the amp on that tour as well. So the same amp, it was the prototype basically. And that was a good enough road test for me.
Yeah.
Like 4 months of touring with those two bands. When we started doing the Queen's touring, I used 3 of them on stage.
Wow.
So with a giant rig with that's kind of a dry, wet stereo setup. And the great thing about this too, it does have a master volume in the back.
Okay.
So in case you're like playing a club.
What about effects loop, anything like that?
I don't use effects loops. I usually put everything in front.
Why do you like that?
I just like that it's dirty, I mean, the cleanliness of effects and guitars. I think that's good for the studio sometimes, post amp. But for live, you just want to keep it tight, You want to keep it in the same frequency zone. That's what my preference is.
All right, we got the builder himself here, Sean. Sean, can you talk to us about the tubes?
Yes, the tubes in this amp are vintage GE 7581As.
And
they are a little more robust than the 606s, and they just sound incredible. Way better than modern production tubes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the guts and the inside, because you were talking to me off camera about some of the things that are going on underneath the hood?
Yeah, so I tried to the best of my ability to source old parts, old resistors, old capacitors from the 60s and 70s, at like 1% mil-spec type parts rather than modern production stuff. Because I'm not looking to build a bunch of these.
Yeah.
I'm looking for quality, and I'm looking for a really good sound. And the sound difference, it's better in like that little 5% range, and that's what tone chasers are after.
Yeah.
That 5% difference,
Well, excellent. Troy, when you were talking to Sean about building the amp, what were some touchstones? I know you mentioned the Peavey, the Marshall, and the Fender. What were maybe some more specifics that you gave him and Gabriel, of course, at Echo Park to create this thing?
Well, I mean, it spawned from from having something, with the attack of the solid state amp. So we talked about Peavey, we talked about Music Man amplifiers. We talked about there's this really great amplifier from the mid-70s called the SG Systems, which is also a solid state front end and a tube back end. So I just like the hybrid idea. And plus, I use a lot of pedals.
Yeah.
So I needed something that could really take pedals well and not color it too much unless you want it to.
Yeah.
So once you turn this amp up, you plug straight in, there's some real tone happening. But for a lot of the times, I set this thing to clean and use a lot of pedals to control the frequency changes and the boosts and the different volume changes. And so it does all that.
What do you like about the solid state rectifier in terms of having that part of the ingredients?
So when you're playing a solid state amp, you get that attack. It's all about that bang, like that instant. Tubes are squishy, solid state's quick.
Yeah.
So I like the combination, just because I'm playing a lot of rhythm,
Yeah.
you know, and then if I need to take a hot solo, this thing will just, it'll fly, you know.
Now with Queens, you'll play lap steel and other things. Will that lap steel go through this too?
So yeah, I basically have a rig that goes a dry amp, a wet amp, and then a lead amp. And so the guitar will be in one channel, the lap steel will be in the other channel on the wet and dry.
Okay.
And then the lead amp will just be for just leads and heavy like choruses.
And what about the speaker cabinet in terms of what speaker you have on here and why you chose it?
So I use different speakers for different things. With the wet and dry sort of situation, I believe, is there vintage 30s in this one? Yeah, the vintage 30s are in here. That's kind of my go-to. I like the El Nico Blue for some stuff too.
Yeah, some old vibe.
But I have different combinations going on sometimes.
That's the best way to do it. Like
Yeah.
El Nico, like a blue or a gold, and then something else like a greenback or something on top.
Yeah.
You have to kind of just spread it out a little bit.
Yeah, so it just depends. With Queens, we can get loud, you know.
Yeah.
So I'll use an 80-watt speaker sometimes with an El Nico Blue, and it's just got this great combination. But, you know, for a smaller venue, vintage 30s do everything I need to do, you know.
Well, Troy, I'm really excited to hear this amp. This isn't the place to do it.
I
But
agree.
it's a cacophony in here, but I'm sure his fans will check you out on tour this summer, this spring.
So this spring and summer, well, this summer, Queens are headed back out on the road to kind of pick up where we left off. And I mean, we're all excited to come back.
Awesome.
and do
Excellent.
it.
I'm excited for you.
Can't wait to see you all out there.
Yeah, man. One of these times we'll get a rig rundown with you.
You know what? Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay?
I'm in, man.
That way you can see exactly how stupid I am and how fucked up I am. But
You have gear anxiety.
I have gear anxiety.
Troy, thank you so much, man. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
you too, man.
Everyone
Cheers.
stay safe and more NAMM stuff.